What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Billtendo Show with myself and Mike the Man. And we have a special guest today, Joel Gorski from Retro Lizard. We're going to go over a couple things real quick, and then we're going to do some news, and we're going to talk to Joel. First of all, sponsored as usual by Billtendo.com. If you're looking for games or accessories, check it out. Plenty of stuff on the site, and if you want to get 10% off in honor of our buddy Mike, use the code Quest64. That'll get you 10% off at checkout. With all that being said, what up, Mike?
Hello, Billy. How are you? I know you've been very busy this week, and we didn't have a show last week because we have community stuff going on, but it's nice to see you again and have a guest here tonight, so I'm pretty happy.
Overall, pretty good. Let's touch on that briefly. As members of the gaming community, it is always imperative to us to be a part of the community and give back where we can. You know, that's just basic human dignity, right? So, one of our community members suffered a tragedy, and we put something together to help him out. Raise a little money. A lot of unexpected bills in a situation like that. And he's a really good guy. And as a community, we should always take care of each other. And to our community members that listen to the show, thank you very much for supporting the cause. It is very much appreciated. I didn't do anything but click a mouse and spin a wheel. You guys did everything, and I appreciate it. Okay, I'm finished being sentimental.
That's good. I don't really have a whole lot of daily stuff before we get into the news. I've been waiting patiently for you to come back to me and do a show with me for almost 2 weeks now. It's been a really sad time for me. I'm lonely. I don't talk to people on the internet other than you. So I'm just glad to be here again on an evening talking to my friends. So.
You get a little too mushy sometimes, and it makes me feel awkward.
Good. I just came from a stream. I have a friend who's also doing some charity stuff tonight, and she's been streaming for 10 straight hours for the American Cancer Society. And
that's awesome. We should
right before I came to the show, she got somebody who donated $5,000 anonymously, all at one time. So I had to quick Feesh is the stream. She's actually that's FeeshIE Feeshy. She's still streaming right now. She's currently eating scorpions for money, and you won't. She'll be done by the time we get here, but she'll get the shout out later on. So it's
good for her, man. I love I love to see the community being a community.
But that's why I'm a little emotional, But,
those
people doing things, and I come here, and then I got to hear you doing things, and
Well, you're a supportive guy, Mike. Every time I do stuff like this, you're very supportive.
I just don't do. I'm just not the head of the thing. I'm just around, just like the show. I'm just around. I'm just convenient.
What did I tell you about that, Joel? He likes to pretend like he's, just. Oh yeah, I'm here, but Mike does the heavy lifting.
Don't let him just got all sentimental with you.
Why are you so fucking awkward, bud?
Yeah. It's just the way I am.
I feel like he's touching your leg right now.
Yeah, we have we have all codes.
Yeah.
That's why we don't record the video.
Yeah. All right, so as we talked about, we didn't have a show last week, so some of the news is kind of be 2-week news stories instead of 1-week news stories like we usually do. So what we missed last week in the news, Billiam, is the last Nintendo Direct, which is probably the most important thing for our community since last time we talked. Lots of things announced, the new Princess Peach game, and a bunch of other... the Super Mario RPG update. And F-Zero 99, which is very cool if you have a Switch. It's not the F-Zero game everybody wanted, but it is an F-Zero game, which is more than we can say about the last like 7 to 8 years or whatever without F-Zero games.
Yeah, but it's a F-Zero battle royale, you know? It's
It is cool.
F-Zero from Super Nintendo, which you can play with 99 people at a time, man.
Yeah, it's fun, and I'm not disappointed because I've played it, but it's not a mainline F-Zero game like everybody's been waiting for. So I mean, it's like a consolation prize that's super fun. But the big news is that the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door GameCube game is getting a full-on remake for the Switch, which is this would be the first time outside of GameCube that this game's available. I have a lot of feelings about remakes and remasters and things like that because my favorite game is never going to get remade, remastered unless I, you know, pay for it
Unless you do
myself.
it yourself.
Essentially, yeah, until I just do it myself. Correct. But so the conversation that came up in the community is, and it's always the same. It's what games deserve remakes and remasters. What games, are Nintendo clearly using to just make money, and which ones are for the community. And this one's really borderline. A lot of people like to complain that um it regularly goes for, $60 to $80 loose or $100 complete plus, and that it's great that this is available for everybody because it's inaccessible otherwise, for the average player, not for the collector, but for people who want to play it.
Right.
But this one presses me slightly weird because it's going to be $60 for the Switch one as well. So what is the line for a game being for the community from Nintendo because it's not accessible either monetarily or like press wise because it had a short run or something like that.
So, by the way, Thousand Year Door didn't have a short run on
No,
game.
and it sold extremely well, which furthers
had a
the point
greatest
that
hits.
that this price is the same price as the GameCube, and it's a 2 million plus seller game already. So
Right. Well, to be fair, I have not seen loose copies for sale other than the occasional marketplace find for under $75. Everything I see is $75, 70 to $75 for loose, and 110 and up for CIB. So let's be clear that Nintendo is not about the fans. I love Nintendo. My logo's based on Nintendo. My favorite consoles are Nintendo. But at the end of the day, Nintendo is a business and they operate it as a business as they see fit, even if it doesn't make sense to the fans because the fans want fan stuff. When it comes to Thousand Year Door, when it comes to, for me personally, Pikmin 1 and 2, physical release on the Switch, all of these make sense because these were console locked games. And we know there are great games that are locked on Nintendo 64 and GameCube that have never been updated. They've never been released in any other way by Nintendo, but now they're putting them on their modern console. So, it's purely a business decision on their part. Nintendo's not really known too much for fan service. If they were known for fan service, we would have Mother 3. That it's as simple as that. Reggie Fils-Aime said when he left Nintendo, the best thing about leaving Nintendo is he would never have to answer a question about Mother 3 ever again. But Nintendo's going to put out games that make them money, and if the easiest way to go about it is instead of developing a brand new Paper Mario game that is better than the Origami King or whatever it was, or remastering Thousand Year Door, they're going to remaster Thousand Year Door. It was extremely popular. A lot of people want to play it, especially people that got on the Paper Mario in the Wii era or the Wii U era or Switch era. They hear about Thousand Year Door, not accessible. It might be for Switch, same price point, but much more accessible.
Joel, are you a big GameCube guy? You got some GameCube games that you're looking forward to for Nintendo to recharge you $60 for sometime in the next 2 years?
I'm not a huge GameCube guy, even though I have the kiosk. I wasn't when GameCube was out. I was PS2 and Xbox, so I wasn't really too much into the GameCube. But I hear what Bill's saying when it comes to the Thousand Year Door and the remake and what they're putting out, and I agree with him that Nintendo is not for the fans. If Nintendo was for the fans, we would have a GameCube online like we have Nintendo 64 online. They know that they can make money off those GameCube games, and it doesn't matter what they price it at. They're going to put it at what is the highest level they can put that game for to make money off it, knowing that we're going to buy it no matter what. We might have it for the GameCube, but we're going to pick it up for the Switch now. And now we have either the $80 loose copy or $150 CIB, and now we got a Switch copy that doesn't have an insert inside it, and it's just a little cartridge, and it's the same exact fucking game. It just looks a little bit better.
Yeah. And I mean, they are kind of just playing the game with, now they've tested the waters and they added handhelds to the online thing. It's just, to me, it's just more, they're just testing the waters with how much they can charge for games that we already have before they add things like GameCube down the line. They very well could. It won't be the games that they're going to remaster. I guarantee they have a whole collection of 20 or 30 that they know that they'll make money on. I do believe that Fire Emblem also got an announcement that that's getting a remaster, which makes much more sense to me because I haven't sold a copy of that in forever because I don't really resell, but I'm sure Billy knows more what that's worth. A couple $100, I think. The Fire Emblem GameCube game.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Three Houses or whatever it is.
Yeah, Three Houses or whatever. I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, but it's a couple $100. I mean,
yeah.
What I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo released remasters of Tales of Symphonia and Skies of Arcadia.
Well, then one of those already got a Switch compilation. I think Symphonia's got one on the way already, I believe.
Maybe.
But yeah, the games that are 100 plus, those make sense to me. It makes it feel better as a fan that Nintendo's like, oh, here you go. This game and games like Symphonia and Fire Emblem obviously sold much less than Paper Mario. So as far as accessibility or preservation of the media, those make a little more sense to me, at least in a way where I can justify them to people buying them. I don't have a great taste about the Paper Mario game, but I want people to play it, so I'll just let it go. Is what's going to happen.
I find it interesting that they are putting out Paper Mario, which is basically the version they came up with when they no longer had access to Super Mario RPG, and Super Mario RPG, both for the Switch around the same time.
I don't think they had a plan, Billy. Like, it just happened. So people try to like overanalyze what Nintendo's doing. I honestly think that one thing just happened and then another thing happened. They're like, we'll just release them both before Christmas. Who cares?
Well, they gave us the terrible Paper Mario for 64 online, which that game is not too fun for me. And then they're going to charge us for the good one because Thousand Year Door is the best one they ever made.
Oh yeah, it's peak Paper Mario without a doubt.
And it's the second one they ever made, and they peaked at number 2. The other ones are terrible. They're not bad, but they're not as good.
I got you. I agree with that. Nintendo's done that a couple times for me. I was thinking about it the other day, and I can't even remember what example I had in mind, but where they put out a game, and like the second and third one out of 5 were like the best ones, and then they don't get close to that again.
Right. It's kind of like the Cruising USA games. Cruising USA is fantastic. Cruising World is okay, and Exotica is just trash. But if you put it on a Switch in a three game combination, I'll pay $80 for that.
Yeah, kind of feel like that's the thing. Is anything with a trilogy or a doublet, even if Nintendo doesn't do it, somebody like Limited Run will find every single penny they can squeeze out of it and slap it together on a cartridge, and you'll be buying.
Oh yeah, they will. And, I mean, they're going to charge. They're going to charge you for it. They're going to charge you extra for it, and then they're going to take 2 years to ship it to you.
Oh, speaking of that, Worms Armageddon shipped yesterday, Billy.
And then it comes in a bubble mailer for the collector's edition. So,
yeah. No other protection at all, just a bubble mailer. Thanks for the dent.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen it. I've seen it.
I mean, I touched them, Billy. So yes, I've seen them as well. So
yes. So, Mike, what do you think about the rumors? I haven't heard any confirmation of this, but the rumors that the new GTA is going to launch at $120.
That makes sense. I don't like it, but that seems like something that would happen because it won't be. I imagine it's not supposed to be on this system life, but we're talking like PS6, Xbox, 1480, whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah,
So
it's probably
at the rate we're trending with video game systems, ideally what would happen instead is two of them would die off and everything would be one system, or Microsoft drops their system and goes straight to a PC streaming kind of thing. I think that that's the only way that we would level prices at this point, because the only thing that's keeping games inflated right now is the fact that we have three systems and the games have to be produced for three systems, and they know there'll always be fanboys of each of them and they can charge whatever. So $100 games, it seems like it's an inevitability at this point, and that so it
do
doesn't
you
surprise me at all.
so Joel, do you think that's setting a terrible precedent for a game to launch for the standard edition at double the price point we're paying now for games?
Oh yeah, I think it's terrible, but I think Mike's on point where that's where we're trending towards. We're at $74.99 for a lot of regular standard edition games, and after tax, we're already at $85. So $100, 120. I could see that going there absolutely. I'm not happy about it, but it's not going to stop me from playing games though either.
Yeah.
And it's
That's,
not the first time either. I love to tell the story that I paid $99.99 for Turok on N64 in 1997, and then
what
my
a
mom also.
dumbass.
What?
Dude, there
Wait,
was like,
what?
yep, that's how much at the end of 96, beginning of 97, there was like 10 games for the N64. I live in rural Wisconsin,
Okay,
and it was Shopko, Walmart, and then KB Toys,
right.
and there was no games for the system, so they were just charging whatever they wanted. That's so the opening price point or suggested retail for Turok was $89.99, but just about every store in my area was $99.99
Oh my
for
god.
Turok for the first month and a half that it was out. And it was actually like that for a few games. My mom also bought WWF Warzone for a Christmas present. She paid $79.99 for
Yikes.
WWF Warzone, I believe.
Oh wait, I think around here is some of the Nintendo 64 games when that 96, 97 era. I think that
Yeah.
around here they were like 69.99. So I
Yep. And
remember
that
them
was
being
without
so expensive.
yeah, even at the end of 97, some of them were still like that. And then Donkey Kong came out and they bumped it right back up to that after coming back down because it had the expansion pack and, yada, 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 yada. But it was like that at the end of the Genesis N60 or at the end of the Genesis Super Nintendo era, too. Games like NBA Jam Tournament Edition and Mortal Kombat Trilogy were the same. It was around here was $79.99, $89.99 for cartridge games, and that's just what you were paying if you wanted to play. If you wanted to play,
Right. I remember
so
my mom told me she couldn't afford to buy Sega games for me, so she got me the Sega Channel, and that was just as good.
yeah, yeah,
Hey,
that was terrible, terrible time.
Mike was a Sega kid too.
Yeah, I
So
was. So yeah, totally Sega.
Love Sega. Absolutely love Sega. I got the Sega kiosk behind me with a DS16.
You
Love
can
the
see it.
Sega.
It's a little
fucking
glary, but it's
Sega kids are weird.
yeah, we are. That's why we
Fucking
remember
Nintendo
exactly what
people.
we paid for video games 15 years ago.
Right, right. Now, I say all this talking a lot of crap. Uh my parents didn't provide me with either, but my cousins had Nintendo and eventually I got a Nintendo. So, uh I did have a couple cousins with Sega though, but it was my weird
Yeah, the
cousins.
weird cousins. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it really was. That's where I
Yeah.
played Altered Beast the first time. That was a
Oh
great
hell yeah,
game.
you did. Yeah, but like I said, so you know, time is a flat circle or whatever. So going back to 2 years ago, seeing the same prices, which with inflation, which people love to talk about in video game land, those prices back then would be more expensive than we're paying now. So it goes up and down. High video game prices don't surprise me. Low video game prices surprise me way more. I can't remember the last time I paid full price for a brand new video game. I just wait for everything to go on sale or secondhand, or I've got enough used stores in my area that I support. I can wait a month for a game.
Oh shit! I just paid full price for Mortal Kombat last week. The
How does that
premium
feel? Does
edition.
that feel good? You like paying full price for games?
I mean, it makes my dick hard.
Yeah, you get to be
Mike,
there day one.
I think this guy might be rich talking about paying full price for games. He's independently wealthy.
The gamer on a budget, sir.
That's right.
I just want to play the games, man. It's when they come out. That's it.
I hear you.
Hey, Mike, didn't we do a whole episode on gaming on a budget?
Yeah, day one Mortal Kombat 1 wasn't in that conversation, but that's, it is what it is. I paid the last game I bought brand new was I'm a huge Borderlands fan. I bought Borderlands 3 brand new, and that left enough stank in my face, not being as good as 1 and 2, that I just decided that that's it for me. I'm like, nothing's gonna live up to full price for me anymore, so I'm just gonna wait. Every single time I'll just wait.
You know what though? $120. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about this. $120 for GTA 6. GTA 5 has been going for 13 years straight
Yes.
right now. That online has been around since 2014, 2015-ish, Christmas time.
Yep.
And I remember when it came out and I tried it and it wasn't even that popular, that it just picked up over time. I feel like the GTA 6 is going to be it's going to run for at least 10 to 15 years. It's going to be one of those games that's going to keep updating itself, and it's going to define a whole new genre of video games that can do something like that, like what Mario Kart is doing by giving us new course packs. We're going to get new missions, and we're going to get new adventures in that game in the coming years after we beat the original campaign. And that campaign could probably go up to 200 hours. Look at Tears of the Kingdom right now. That's a long-ass campaign. And then you just got to scratch the surface when you beat the campaign.
Yeah, that is the way games are trending, and Grand Theft Auto has done a really good job of, fan service, even though they charge for a lot of things, like real money for things. You don't have
Right.
to have those, but it's that FOMO. If you don't have them, it is what it is. So they'll get their money at even if they don't charge, $100 for the game, they're still going to get $100 out of you. So probably we'll get $100 out of you.
I just hope there's going to be a physical version, because I like the physical games. I like having the discs.
You're with friends here then.
That's what we do, right? We collect.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I try not to hoard. I've gotten myself to a point where and it took a long time to get here, but I only keep games I plan on playing. And if I realize for even a second I probably won't play this game, I get rid of it. I'm playing a lot of stuff on emulation nowadays because I just want to play games. I feel like I've owned most of the games I wanted to own, but things change, man.
Collecting is hoarding. Let's be honest. It really is.
True.
So my whole thing was, I'm not sure if I'm ever gonna really want to play this game, and I have it sitting on the shelf. There's somebody that wants to play this game, so I'll just sell it. And that's actually a problem with being a seller, is you get to a point where everything passes through your hands and everything gets kind of monetary, to where you're like, I don't really need this. And you come across so much stuff that you get this mentality of, if I found it once, I'll find it again.
Right. Which is true. You do come across it.
Yeah. So
I was at a point, when I was collecting, when I started getting heavy into collecting, was like 2015, 2016. And I was going for, of course, the first thing I went for was the Nintendo 64 NTSC collection, right? The 296, or some would consider the 297, depending on how you want to collect it. So I was going for that. Then at the same time, I'm just like, I just want to build my game collection. And I was just buying lots off of eBay to just have that giant collection in there. And at one point in 2019, or actually 2020, right when we went into lockdown, I'm like, what am I doing with all this stuff? I have 31 consoles, and they're all out on display. I have over 100 NES games. I got almost the entire Nintendo 64 collection. I have 10 different Nintendo 64s. I'm never going to play these things. So I sold it all of it. Sold it all. And then I missed it after I sold it. I'm like, shit. Now I'm back. I'm like, all right, I got all my Funtastics back. I'm not going for collections anymore because you don't need to have those giant collections of getting like games. Like, what would I do with the entire Sega Genesis collection besides let it collect dust?
Right.
You know. So I went into collecting rare games and rare items for gaming as opposed to going for hordes and hordes and hordes of games and games and games. So I'm with you, Bill, where you're like, I'm agreeing with you, actually, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
A long
I
explanation of why I'm agreeing with you, but I'm agreeing with you.
no, but you said something just now that not only does it agree with me, but I do the same thing. Is um, maybe I don't collect so many games anymore, but I do collect things. Like they don't even have to be valuable things. They just have to be oddities. Or if I come across something that's odd or rare, I I want to have that because to me it has a cool factor, and I don't care if it's worth $5 or $5,000. You know, if I think it's cool, then I want it in my collection, and it's mostly weird stuff.
I hear you, man.
Like
I
Sega
mean,
Genesis games?
Mike, tell them about your paper hoards.
oh yeah, I'm currently buying a bunch of Japanese N6. So I'm a big N64 guy too, and I've been doing nothing but buying Japanese strategy guides for about 4 months now because that's fun for me. Not only are they cheap, but there's lots of like cool screenshots that ended up getting like deleted from games and just cool things or strategy guides that didn't get released over here. But that's led me down the weird thing path too. I now have 4 watches for Densha to Go, the train simulation, like the pocket watches that go in the middle of the weird controllers. And so I'm in both your camps where I like owning things that I can't put a value on. I literally can't put a value on those Densha watches because one hasn't sold on eBay in the existence of eBay, and I can't, nobody's ever selling them until I find one and I instantly buy it and pay whatever they want. And that's the new value, and then, and it goes into a pile, and then I just stare at it because I know I have a watch over there, and
With
but
a
at least I
stack
know
of
I have the
Japanese
thing.
strategy guides.
Yeah. Yes, correct. Strategy
Yeah.
guides are either worth $2 if you're at a bookstore, or they're worth $50 if you're on Facebook Marketplace, but never anywhere in between. So
Yeah, right.
yeah.
What was the last strategy guide you picked up for Japan for Japanese?
It was one of the Mario Kart variants. It's a really like cheesy, generic looking one. It just has some. I'll put a when we post the episode. I'll put a picture up, but it's just white with a bunch of kanjis scrolled across the front of it with no pictures whatsoever.
That's funny. Have you
Yep.
guys? You guys mentioned that Bill? You mentioned you get into emulation, and you just mentioned Japanese Mario Kart. It just made me think of. You guys ever hear of Technoparrot, the Technoparrot emulator?
No.
No.
No. So the Technoparrot emulator is an arcade emulator, and it has Mario Kart DX, the arcade version, but
Mhm.
it's the Japanese version. So
Okay.
when you turn it on and it loads up, it's just some Japanese guy screaming at you.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That gets you in the mood to compete.
Oh,
It
dude.
does. It's like,
Yeah.
holy shit, hit the
Speaking the
button before he
language
starts yelling
here.
more.
I just spent the other day trying to figure out, well, with a buddy of mine, Scott, who loves hearing his name on the show. We
Hi,
worked through
Scott.
a, hi, Scott. We worked through a translator on RetroArch. So now we both have an active translator on our computer that takes a screenshot of the games as you play them, so in real time, and then I just hit the space bar on my computer, and it instantly uses Google AI to translate the screen for me while I'm playing, so I can so we can play RPGs that we weren't able to play on the N64 before and stuff like that. So I've also been having Japanese dudes. I played the Evangelion game the other day, and the whole intro with the stuff is just big robots screaming at you the whole time. And I'm like, just shut up so I can translate this one line of text here. Like, I just need to make sure it's the same as the show. I don't want to miss something.
What's great about the games, though, is they're not really yelling at you. That's just how they talk.
Oh yeah, that's
Right.
just the way it is. All right, we'll do one more news story before we get into Joe's life story here. So the opposite of games being accessible is the revelation, I guess, from the Cult of the Lamb people, which is one of Billy's games that he likes to drop occasionally here, they're having I thought you were a Cult of the Lamb guy. Don't shake your head at me.
No, I said I'd like to try it.
Oh, okay, maybe that's what it was. You said you wanted to
Okay.
try it. Anyway, also last week when we were off, Unity, the popular game developing engine, decided that starting in 2024, they were going to have what they like to call a runtime fee, which will kick in after developers cross specific, revenue thresholds based on either downloads or money made and whatever. Right now, Unity is free for people to use, and then there's pay options in it. Cult of the Lamb was either, I don't know if it was specifically developed using Unity, but they are pretty tied into the community, the developers of it. And they straight out tweeted when they saw that, buy Cult of the Lamb now because we're deleting it on January 1st when this goes into effect. So either have a physical copy between now and then for the Switch or whatever system you play on, or you're not going to be downloading a digital version because they want to just delete it in protest of the Unity fee. So
Right. And Unity actually, I had this on my list to talk about also. They have a fee structure. So it goes by the amount of downloads, how much the developer would owe them. So like a major studio actually gets quite a large discount according to their structure because they're going to do millions of downloads, whereas a small developer is going to do much smaller amounts and their fee structure is higher. So say they use Unity to develop, they release it on Steam for 99 cents, they could end up owing Unity more money than they ever bring in. And just saying, I heard Unity reached out to the developer of Flappy Bird and they owe them $20 million retroactively according to the new policy.
yeah.
So
Jesus.
Yeah, there's a lot of
a
really
joke.
popular games right now too that use Unity and
Absolutely.
are currently. I mean, like things like Beat Saber uses Unity. Hollow Knight was made with Unity. I don't think there's any new versions of that coming up anytime soon. But Subnautica. There's lots of games that people play and are still downloading actively. That I mean, Pokemon Go. People still play Pokemon Go. That was made with Unity.
People
I
play
just
Pokemon Go
can't.
all the time.
Yeah,
All the time. My
I just
buddy's got like 4,000 hours logged into it because he's
yeah.
been playing it for like four years.
I'm trying to figure out what to do with my account because I haven't played for a year, and for a while I used to be able to sell them. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And then, instead, I'm like, I'll just stop playing it. But yeah, yeah. What are you gonna do with those games that like Pokemon Go? How many active users does that have? Millions currently.
Has to.
What do you? They're gonna come knocking on the door on January 1st and be like, "This is the fees you owe." Like, what a joke! What like, you think they're gonna bully the Pokemon company? You think you're gonna bully like Nintendo? Like, so what do you think is going on? Who is the small fish here? Like,
Yeah, Unity is getting ballsy if they think they're gonna hit Nintendo up and be like, "Hey, you owe us $2 million. We'll take that." And Nintendo's
I
gonna,
guarantee Nintendo has a lawyer that's just working on Unity stuff right now, just
yeah,
sitting in an
probably.
office,
Oh
like,
yeah.
here's how we're gonna chew them apart. The second that the clock changes and hits midnight, like we'll be ready. Like,
Joel, as I keep saying, I'm gonna know I made it when I get a cease and desist from Nintendo
Yeah. Right.
for
I heard you say
either
that a few times.
for selling either emulators or because of my logo, which is technically inactionable, but that won't stop Nintendo.
Right.
So
Right.
and we've said the same thing. I have friends that are making, so since Quest 64 is not coming out anytime soon, we have friends in the speedrunning community that are also making a Unity based version of Quest 64 right now. And we've always said that
Why?
because it's my favorite game. That's why.
Okay.
Anyway,
All right.
um,
No judging.
so the second best scenario to the game getting made is Imagineer or Nintendo or somebody saying, you guys got to stop making this, because that is them acknowledging that somebody could still make money off the game, which is just as good as making the game ourselves, as somebody saying, well, we still might want to make money off of the Quest IP down the road. So go ahead, cease and desist. Please tell us that we can't make it anymore, so I know that you're thinking about it. Like, Because right now it's not a monetary project. It's never going to make any money. So if you're telling us that you're going to make money, then make it. Make the game. Make the money. Make
make
me pay
the
for
money.
it. Make me pay for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Do it.
Next year's Nintendo Direct is Quest 64 remastered for the
Yep.
Switch.
I dare you. I double dog dare you.
That fucking Nintendo Direct is gonna get ratioed so hard.
Yep. I already do that on every Nintendo Direct anyway. So the one where it actually happens would just. I've said I would delete all my social media the second I get that remaster. So look forward to it. It's coming.
So,
All right.
all right.
All right. That's enough rigmarole, Billy. Let's introduce your guest. Let's let Joe be Joe instead of just the third wheel in this news story here. So.
Yeah. So, Joel, you want to tell us about yourself?
Sure.
All
Where
right.
do I start? Who am I? I'm Joel, right? People call me Retro Lizard. I own a business called Retro Lizards Custom Arcades, located in Buffalo, New York. Born and raised. Go Bills! Fuck yeah. Um, so my business, the business is custom arcades. Do 2 players, 4 players, light gun arcades. They're all multi-cades. They're not just dedicated arcades. So there's thousands of games on them. I do racing arcades, linked racers, virtual pinballs, and Guitar Hero. What's fucking weird to say is that I am the only person, possibly, I don't want to say possibly in the world, but definitely in the United States, that is selling a Guitar Hero multicade. There
Nice.
was one other company down in Australia, but unfortunately that company did some dirty shit and went bankrupt. And as far as I understand and knew, they were the only other company. Oh, fuck here. He's wearing a Tom Brady jersey. Fuck it. I just, oh my God. Tom Brady could single handedly stop 9/11.
What you talking about? We're talking about video games here.
Fucking Tom Brady. Um, so, but like I was saying, as far as I understood, they were the only other company besides me that was doing that, and they went under, and I don't know anybody else that's doing it. So I'm, self-proclaimed. I'm the only person doing it. I'm also the only company that's doing linked racing arcades, also sit downs, and that's pretty cool because there's 65 different sit down linked racing games that you can play on there. Not many main games. There's only 2 MAMEs, but the Technoparrot emulator I mentioned has some linked games up on there. Mario Kart DX, the Japanese version. You could play that in linked while the Japanese guy's yelling at you. And then some other cool stuff on there. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I do this all day and I kind of black out. That's really it for that. I also do drives for DIY guys. Not everybody wants to spend a couple $1,000 on an arcade machine, and they want to build it themselves.
Right.
So I also sell pre-configured drives for those guys. I got pre-configured light gun drives. My light gun drive is 226 light gun games, and it's set up for every light gun on the market, specifically to that light gun. So there's Gun for IR, there's the Sending Gun, the aim tracks, the Wii remotes, the AE light guns, this new thing that just came out from Pandora called the Retro Shooters. There's like 5 or 6 different light guns on the market now. Pre-configured racing drives, pre-configured pinball drives. I got a drive for everything. And then I have also for, if you just want to plug something into your TV, I call it the Ultimate Console. It's a 20 terabyte PC with 17,000 games on it. And we're talking the libraries here. We're talking libraries of starting at Atari 2600 going up to the Xbox 360. That's including the Wii also, too. Like Bill said, dude, I'll know when I made it when I get that cease and desist from Nintendo. So that's basically the business. That's the website. I've been doing arcades for 3.5 years. I started off with the arcade one-ups. Started off as a daddy-daughter project. I got an Asteroids for cheap. I got it for $75, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to put more games on this? And that's when I got into the Raspberry Pi thing, and I figured out that I could just modify the deck. And Amazon sells your 2-player arcade kits. So I turned this Asteroid machine into a 8,000 game multicade using a Raspberry Pi 3 and an image I found on the internet. And a couple of my friends caught on to that, and I got a buddy up north from me, about 20 minutes north, that owns a retro game store, and he had a Turtles machine, the original Ninja Turtles arcade one-up, the Gen 1. And he's like, can you mod this for me? And I'm like, sure. I never did a 4-player, so it's a good practice for me. So I modded it for him, and he's like, dude, there's nobody in Buffalo doing this. Like, you gotta advertise for this. And he's like, you'll make a killing. He's like, there's nobody doing this. I'm like, all right. So I hemmed and hawed over it. I had a regular job at the time. I went to college like everybody else, and I hemmed and hawed over it. I did a lot of googling just to make sure that there was nobody else around her doing this. And I found one other company, but they were just making new arcade decks for Arcade One Up, so that you can modify the system instead of drilling your own holes into the deck. But he wasn't selling any systems; he was just selling the decks. So I tossed it up on Marketplace, and it blew up. That first year, it was 2020, and I put it on Marketplace 2 weeks before we went into lockdown. And when we went into lockdown and we started getting that stimulus money coming in, dude,
Yeah.
like as soon as it came in, I was blown up that day with like so many different customers, and I ended up doing 52 Arcade One Up modifications that year.
Wow.
March, we're talking from March 2020 to Christmas. And I took a break at Christmas time because I had to do taxes. So I took a break at Christmas time, and I stepped a little back for a little while from it. And I had a second kid, and I wanted to get back into it. I had that itch, I wanted to get back into doing the mods and doing the arcades, and people knew who I was in the arcade community. And my wife's like, if you're going to do this, you got to figure out how to do a website. You got to offer more, and you got to raise prices. You got to make something out of this if you're going to be doing this.
Man.
Especially as a second job. Like I was in my garage from the time my daughter was 18 months at the time. So I went in my garage the moment she went to bed at 7 o'clock until like midnight every single night for every single one of those months. And my wife's like, if you're going to be doing this, you got to make money off it. Simple as that. You can't just do it as a hobby. You can't just do it for funsies. The extra money's fun, great, but let's make some money doing this. I opened up the website. That took off without even expecting it to. Last August of 22, I matched what I made at my normal job through the website. And I showed the numbers to my wife, and I'm like, what do you think if I quit my job and I take this full time and see what happens? And she's like, give it a shot, but if it sucks in 6 months, go back to your regular job. I'm sitting here today still owning my own business right now. It's we're just over a year. I just hit my 1 year. September 1st was my 1 year, and I got a 1 year anniversary sale going on my website right now too. And since then, also though, I've obviously made more products, and I've done more things. And the light guns, everybody loves light guns, man. I'm sure you guys have been to an arcade. Imagine playing Area 51 on your 55-inch 4K TV.
Yeah, so I actually had questions about that. So, yeah, you're the guy to ask, and I'm going to ask you specifically because I'm interested in this on a technical level. So you say you have multicades, light gun multicades,
Yeah,
and so whereas you would have a newer light gun game
I do.
as opposed to an older style light gun game which requires a CRT. How how what type of television are you using, and how do you get this to work, a CRT style light gun game to work on a modern TV?
So we got a couple different options to do that. We're using flat screen TVs. I'm using 1080p TVs and 4K monitors. 32. I go up to 32, but you can actually play these guns up to a 65-inch TV, no problem. There's a couple guns out there. There's this gun called the Sinding gun. It is a non-censored gun. So in the arcades back in the day with the CRTs, they had sensors that we didn't see that were around the monitors on the inside of the cap, and that's how the gun's tracked. So that's what you need to do to get these older games to work, or any light gun game to work, because even in modern arcades right now, they're still using sensors to track those guns. So the Sinding gun, which I'm not the biggest fan of that gun, it's a non-IR censored gun. It uses a software that the developer made, and it creates a white border around your screen. The camera on the gun is a webcam, and the white border is seen by the webcam, and that's basically the sensor for the gun, and that will allow you to use that gun as basically as a glorified mouse, and play the light gun games on your PC or your Raspberry Pis or your Batacera builds or anything like that. I specifically like using this other gun called Gun for IR. The developer of that guy, he's a French guy, but he's based in Japan, and he created this IR sensor system, and it's a 4-point system. So imagine you're looking at your monitor right now, and imagine looking at it and you have a cross on your monitor or a plus sign. A sensor would go at each one of those points. So you would have 4 sensors, top, bottom, left, and right. And this gun tracks it, or is tracked on your screen by using that. And it's dead on. You can aim down the iron sights, and you're spot on with your sight on your screen. So those guns are what has created us to allow to use these our old retro games like Duck Hunt and Hogan's Alley and Area 51 to allow them to play us on a flat screen CRT or on a flat screen monitor or TV now. So Gun for IR is not cheap. It's probably it is the most expensive gun on the market you can get, but it's the best gun on the market you can get. It's the only gun I offer on my light gun arcades when I'm building an arcade for somebody. The Sinden light gun is not as expensive as the Gun for IR. I think it's $126 for the non-recoil version, and the recoil version I think is $160. This is USD. It's based in the United Kingdom, and with shipping, it comes over here. It takes about 3 weeks for you to get that gun. There's some downfalls to that gun, though, when it comes to its technology, is that lighting affects the webcam. So if I'm in my garage and I got my shop light on, I can't use that gun on a TV because it won't track because the light's affecting it.
Okay.
But if I use a Gun for IR with my shop light on in my garage, I know the lighting doesn't affect it, period. Because the sensors are being powered and it's tracking through the gun instead of tracking it on screen with a webcam. So there's a little bit of a difference there and a little bit of a downfall. Also, if the white border doesn't work on the Sinden gun, then the game won't be able to play with your gun. And we've come to find out that that white border isn't universal. There's a button on the side of the gun for the Sinden that activates the border on your screen, so you don't have to keep clicking like the software on and off. It automatically does it by clicking this button. I actually have one down here. So this is a Sinden light gun. I know the viewers or people can't see it. But this is what a Sinden light gun looks like, and this is right here is where the webcam is.
So it basically looks like the Gun Con from...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So
it looks like a Gun Con.
So, and that will bring me over to Gun for IR. Gun for IR is just technology that goes inside a gun. You can put it inside anything from a Nerf gun to the gun cons to a time crisis gun. So the guy who developed all that's in Japan, but we got a guy down in New York City, living in Queens, called Arpeg Electronics, and he modifies guns by hand and sells them for customers to buy so that you can play them on your modern TVs or consoles. He has gun cons, the original gun cons for the PlayStation 1s. Mm-hmm. Japan still develops them. You can buy them brand new from Japan and ship them over here. So he buys them brand new from Japan, ships them over here, guts them, puts the new technology inside them, adds a rumble motor, adds a recoil inside it. It's a 12-volt recoil, and then sends the gun off, and then you got yourself a recoil gun, GunCon 1. And then the highest gun he has, which is the most expensive gun, a real Time Crisis 3 gun, the top slide Jolt recoil. It's a 24-volt recoil solenoid on the inside. It's a $900 fucking gun. But dude, when you pull that trigger for that first time, you understand why you paid $900 for that gun. Because that motherfucker, awesome. I call it clapping. That motherfucker claps, dude. It hits hard. It hits so hard. My 2-year-old daughter, her bedroom's right above me right now. I can't use that gun in the house when my kids are sleeping. It's that loud. I have to go out to the garage to use it. So that's how that's what we're using. We're using Gun for IR or we're using Sinden. Those are the two most popular light guns on the market right now to play these modern retro games and current games too. We have Tomb Raider emulated. We have Scarlet Dawn emulated. These Technoparrot devs they're based out of Russia. These guys are working on emulating the new Jurassic Park game that's sitting at Dave & Buster's. So we're going to be able to play that in about a year. We got Terminator Salvation that we can play on just sitting here talking to you guys, I could be playing Terminator Salvation right now with a light gun. You know, the light gun games are all out there, and the modern ones are coming out more and more too. We're getting at least 2 to 3 of them a year now.
Very cool. The only experience, so I've used a couple of like home, like the crappy Terminator 1-up arcade light gun thing. The
Oh, that
only
thing sucks.
experience, oh yeah, it's terrible.
And
Uh,
that's a sending gun. That's an actual
yep,
sending gun.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not great. The experience that I've always wanted to emulate, I have the Silent Scope Xbox gun, but that's not the same as going back to, 15-year-old me in the arcade being able to see the TV screen inside of the scope,
Right.
on Silent Scope. So that's always what I'm hoping for, is somewhere down the line, somebody's going to make a $1,500 Silent Scope home gun. So I don't have to buy some old burnt out cab Silent Scope, put a new TV in it, and then hope that it doesn't die and need to be rewired the first year that I buy it. So
Nintendo needs to fucking remaster Silent Scope.
well, that's Sega too, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, Sega.
Actually,
Nintendo
well,
needs to
no.
buy it.
Yeah, it is Sega. And then the console version of Silent Scope was Xbox. It was
Yep,
original
I
Xbox.
have the big green plastic Silent Scope home version. That's never going to be as fun, but I mean, I have it just because I like looking at the box. So.
Right, yeah. I actually have that game emulated on my arcades too. It's, it's still got its jazz, but it's more like it's not that great because you got to
Yeah.
hold a button and then it just zooms
Yep.
in.
Yeah,
And
just
it's not as
having a
great as
square
looking
on your
down the
screen.
scope.
That
Yeah,
was the biggest, heaviest gun in the arcade, the most fun to play with, and
it was.
someday.
I remember the first time I played it, I'm looking down the scope and I'm looking at the screen and I'm like, where's the guy?
Yep. Yeah, because moving just like 6 inches on the gun was the whole length of the screen. And you couldn't. Yeah,
Yeah,
you wasted your first dollar just trying to figure out how to be a better sniper. Great
right,
time.
right.
So
So, but oh man, that arcade 1-up Terminator 2, I called those the popcorn popper guns.
yeah,
I opened it up, and that all that recoil is that noise that we hear on the inside, that click 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 noise. It's a screw hitting a piece of plastic. Oh, I'm sorry, it's a piece of plastic hitting a screw. That's what the noise is. It's literally a fucking popcorn popper.
yeah, you can tell when you pick it up what it is. But I mean, that's what people come to expect. Like you said, you bought your first 1-up arcade for $75. I have the sit down outrun machine. I got that on clearance at Walmart for 140. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bought that either. They're
Dude,
cool to have for the price, but
what's fucking crazy? That outrun sit down, you can resell it for $600.
I see it.
Yeah,
And my kids don't play it, and I remind them of that every day. I'm like, the second you don't want it anymore, you want something cooler, you just pop it in the marketplace. You can sell it yourself. I don't have to do it.
well, that's where the mods come in. I got my racing drive. You can fucking drop my racing drive inside that thing and fucking play it. You got to do some mods to it.
Listen,
They still wouldn't play it, I promise.
yeah,
See?
but Mike, you would.
Maybe.
Right? Imagine playing Mario Kart 8 for the Switch on that outrun kit.
What about Double Dash? I don't care about.
Or Double Dash, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
You'd have
Double
to
Dash
remake the
is
whole
the
thing.
best
Like, I
Mario.
already had to
Double
add
Dash
2
is great.
pads to the seat because it makes you sit so close to the floor, and then my back hurts. I'm just too old for fun things.
Yeah, no, I agree. That is the worst. Whoever designed that sucked.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
a grown man cannot sit there
Yeah,
and just
it's
lean
for
like
like
that.
12 and under, and the pedals,
Right.
it doesn't matter how far back you sit. Like then you can't press the pedals all the way without once again without my back hurting from doing this thing, bending forward. And
And
I'll
if you
go to the
put all your
arcades
weight
and I'll
on it,
enjoy
you're gonna
my
break the
time.
pedal.
Yeah,
Yeah. I got the Ridge Racer arcade 1-up. I got it too because this company up in Canada was creating a mod for it, an encoder, so that you don't have to wire it. You can just unplug and plug into the new encoder. So I ended up getting a Ridge Racer because they're the guys that I get my racing shells from, and so I wanted to test it out for them. So I got a Ridge Racer, put it together. My daughter, who was 3 at the time, broke the pedal within 20 minutes from stomping on it. I'm like, well, I can't fucking test this now because it's fucking
yeah.
broken. So those guys actually made a mod so that I can add new pedals to it too. I was like, thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, I kind of wish that they want to get rid of it before they break it. My kids are really good with video games. Like, I don't have the problem of them abusing things. They're really respectful. So
Right.
but I mean, everything breaks eventually. So
Well, the thing was, my daughter, she wasn't like stopping the pedal. she was like, she's only like 35 pounds, and she was just standing on it and leaning hard. And
Yeah.
like it broke the analog on it somehow. I don't even know what she did. But yeah, the arcade one-ups, they're just cheap anyways.
Yeah.
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 I remember when they first came out, and it was what, like 250 bucks for one of them.
Yeah, they were 199.
Yeah, and my little brother, I have a brother that's 8 years younger than me, and he's like, "Oh, this is awesome! I'm gonna get this." And it was one of the first ones, and I'm like, "Dude, how much is that thing?" And he's like, $199. I'm like, "Please don't buy that. Please, please don't pay $200 for that." And he's like, "No, no, I'm getting it." And now he's still got it. No one's touched it in a couple years, and
Yeah,
and I'm like, why did you even buy that thing? I sent him a Nintendo 64 with a handful of games, and his kids spent a week and a half just playing Mario 64 because they had never played it.
and that's a great game to play.
And I'm like, dude, this is $200. Now I got him an EverDrive and everything, so he's rocking it, and the kids love to play it. And I'm like, it would have been more cost effective instead of buying that one game, whatever it was. And it was a piece of shit because I know he lost the knob to it in
Right.
like the first month.
And they are doing better now. So we also have the I also got the Mortal Kombat Legacy one on sale because my kids love Rampage. So that one had a pile of games in it without doing any work. So it had Gauntlet and Rampage and all three Mortal Kombats and just a big smattering of games. And they were actually just playing that as we started. I could hear my wife and my 5-year-old play Mortal Kombat too. So that one still gets play. And the sticks are better. The springs are a little better on that one than on the first run ones, but still, I
Right.
would suggest replacing them because they're still pretty loose. But they have gotten better, but they also haven't gotten any cheaper, even though
Right.
the demand has gone down, at least in my area for them. So
No, what's crazy is the demand is fucking still there, and it's in the arcade community, dude. So like how we collect video games, there are people out there that collect the arcade one-ups, and their basements are lined with these things, and they're not even modified. They're just buying them to have this giant arcade in their basement, and and then those are the same people that complain about oh, the stick is crappy or the button's crappy
yeah,
or
yeah,
this is glitchy or this is that. And I whenever I see something like that, I've been bringing it up recently to some guys in the community. And I'm like, what the fuck happened to when we knew these were just shitty arcades and we would just mod them?
yeah,
Like, what the fuck happened? That was the whole point of buying them, was that we knew they were shitty,
yeah,
so
and
we're
that we were
buying
gonna
them to
change
add
them.
more
Yeah,
games to it because we couldn't afford to spend $700 on a shell for a real 200-pound arcade, you know? But I mean, Mortal Kombat, like you said, though, man. I mean, I still play Mortal Kombat for Sega Genesis. That's a game that's got huge replay value on it, no matter what. Bill, you probably still jam on Mortal Kombat maybe once or twice a year, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As,
probably Super
as long as
Nintendo.
my son Lucas isn't around. Uh,
Right,
Lucas is an absolute beast on fighting games, and I don't know why. He's 23, as a twin brother. His brother's like really good on other games, but for some reason, Lucas has this unnatural talent when it comes to fighting games. So like when I play fighting games, I do it alone down here in the studio, and and I don't let him know I'm playing because he's just too good at him. And he's like, "Why don't you play me? Hey, if you think you're getting good at that, why don't you play me?" And then I try to play him, and he like mops the floor with me, and I'm like, "This isn't fun, dude.
so I don't want to get my ass whipped every time.
I have no chance of winning."
It's like playing Modern Warfare online and you're dead in 5 seconds. This
Yeah,
isn't fun for me.
right, right. How is this a good time?
Right, right, right. But
You
yeah, I
know-
mean, replay values, that's where it comes into. So, I mean, like, they got that Time Crisis cabinet coming out, which is, they use Sinden technology inside it. They got a contract with Sinden, which great for that guy. He was just some asshole in his house that developed this technology, and now he's got millions of dollars from that. It's good for him, right?
Mhm.
But that Sinden gun, it's, the Time Crisis, I was complaining about it. I'm like, they better fucking make it a top slide gun. Like, don't release this game unless it's a top slide recoil. And they made it the cheapest fucking top slide recoil. It's just a spring. That's
yeah,
it. You
just a
pull the
click noise
trigger.
like a pop gun. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
yep.
pop gun. There's no recoil inside it, which kind of fucking blows my mind. Because the Sinden gun, The recoil version of that gun is a 5-volt recoil, the real one that you can order for $160. It's a 5-volt recoil that runs off the USB line. And these arcade one-ups are running 5-volt guns that will run off the USB line. So why aren't they putting the real Sinden solenoid inside these things to give you that real recoil feel for these cabs? I don't get it.
I don't
I
think
don't get
anybody
it.
cares. I don't think the people who buy one ups care. Like if it makes a click noise, they're like, hell yeah, click,
Yeah,
click, click. You know.
I mean, you
it's
know
like
what? They
if
care because it gives them something to bitch about.
I
if
mean
you
that's probably
you're
true.
filling your basement with arcade one ups, obviously you don't give a shit about a lot of
Right,
Yeah,
things.
you don't
right.
really care about anything. You know, it's
You're not really using Grey Poupon, you know what I'm saying?
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. No, I get you on that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, honest, and you know what? I've trended away from modding those things too. So I haven't modded one of those in probably about 2 years. So that's where the business picked up. Where I'm like, my wife's like, okay, well, you need to do other things. You can still offer these mods, but can you offer full size arcades? Is there an option for you to do that? So what if you're spending more on it? Compare prices to other people or in other
yeah.
companies that are doing it, and see if you can undercut a little bit to bring in business. And I was able to do that and still sustain it. So I do make bigger arcades now. My like my 2-player and 4-player arcades, they're 27-inch screens, and so they're 30 inches wide. And then my biggest one is, we call it the Mega Lizard, and that's a 43-inch screen, and it's 4 feet wide across the front. So it's a big beast.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, but I tend to. I also offer the 3/4 size where I have 22-inch screen arcades also. So because not everybody has room for a fucking
Yeah.
43-inch fucking screen arcade.
Right, I couldn't get that into my basement.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And
There's a
that's the other
warning on my
appeal of the one
website
up
that says
ones
you need
is
double doors
yeah.
to get this
Yeah.
in your house because it's so big.
Yeah.
I don't sell a lot of those, but I do sell like maybe 1 or 2 of those a year because people put them in their garages.
Right.
So, there's a garage cage and shit like that. Honestly, I don't even want to fucking look at arcades.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when I'm done working in the garage and I come in the house, I don't want to look at those things. I want to fucking sit down. I want to play video games.
You
You
know,
know?
it's funny you say that because first of all, you and I have similar supervillain origin stories. I also had no intention of being a game seller.
Right,
I spent almost 30 years in the construction industry, and it kind of all started with a $20 Wii that I didn't need at a yard sale, and this is pre-pandemic. And I sold it on Macari for $100 and went and bought an $80 game I wanted. So I got that game for free.
right,
And I'm like, okay, I'll just sell a little something here and there to build my own collection. And you know, at some point, I didn't need any more from my collection, or I didn't want any more from my collection. And I'm like, oh, I'm making decent money. And it turned out my wife and I realized one day how much money I was actually making a couple years ago. Um, and that because I grew it organically, it was going well. And I wanted to leave the job I was at. I was completely miserable, and I'm like, I got to find another job, but
right.
so I can leave here. And my wife was like, why don't you sell games full time? If you're making this amount now on, your weekends,
Right.
why would you not try to do that full time? And I don't always know if that was the best decision, but it's been about probably 2.5, 3 years now. I did go back to carpentry for a very short period not too long ago, and but for the most part, that's been it.
You're
But
sustaining still, though.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like when I'm not messing with games, or even when I'm working, I listen to true crime podcasts on my earbuds all day. When
See?
I am done working, I very rarely play a game. I piddle with Tears of the Kingdom here and there right now, but I watch documentaries and stuff. The last thing I want to do is look at video games most of the time.
Right. Right. That's, yeah. So that would be how I am with the arcades. I don't want
Yeah,
to. I used to have in my basement in the room I'm in, I used to have my multicades. I had my prototypes that I would build first to see what
right.
I can build and how I can do it. And what I can do with it so that I can sell it. So I had my room lined with multicades, and I sold them all. I sold some of them, and I gave some of them away because I'm like, they were collecting dust because I didn't
Right.
want to play them. Because that's all I'm doing all day long is building arcades. And if I do want to play an arcade game, I can just go out to my shop and fire one right up. There's always one completed, ready to go
Right.
in my shop. Because it only takes me a couple days to build it, so it'll sit there for at least maybe 3-4 days before shipping picks it up.
Right.
So it's funny that you mentioned the supervillain origin story, because that's what you just talked about. Getting your Wii is kind of how I got into video game collecting. I started with regular Nintendo, the OG, the toaster, right?
Right.
I bought a broken one and I wanted to see if I could fix it. So I bought it, I changed the pins, and then I figured out how to disable the blue screen, and I got it to fire up. And I'm like, okay, I just fixed a Nintendo. Now I got a Nintendo and it's playing great. What can I fix next? I went to Super Nintendo, got myself a Super Nintendo that was broken, and the fuse on the inside of it needed to be replaced. Replaced the fuse, fired right up. And then I just kept going. I'm like, okay, well, let's go into the Sega CD because I'm a weird person because I like Sega.
Right.
So but I love Sega CD. Like that's a huge. When I was like 10 years old, I remember I got an older brother who's 7 years older than me, and he brought home the Sega CD the first time, and we were playing Jaguar XJ 2200, and it's just super nostalgia in my head for the Sega CD and plus the Star Wars game. So I'm like, all right, well, let's see if I can fix a Sega CD. I'll buy a broken one. At the time, you can get a broken one for $50. This is like I said, this is like 2015, so this is way pre-pandemic. Bought the Sega CD. It was $25 for the lens. Tossed a lens inside it. I got a Model 2 Sega CD fired right up with a brand new lens. You couldn't beat it, right? So and I just kept going and going and going and going and going. I was buying broken consoles, and then I was flipping them a little bit here and there too. And I had the idea of well, what if I open up a retro game store? And then there was 3 of them in the area already, and I'm like, that's already too many in the area. There's no way I can open up a retro game store around here and make money. So I kind of gave up on the idea of that, but I continued on collecting and continued on fixing consoles to gain my collection and build my collection. That's how I ended up with like 31 consoles at one point.
Right.
Yeah. And then I moved on to fucking arcades.
Yeah. And as you know, I was in your neck of the woods over the weekend.
You were. You were.
And
and there was a Bills game.
Huh?
And there was a Bills game.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me how many people in that city have signs on their lawns and stickers on their cars and stuff. I've never seen such adamant support for a mediocre team in my entire life.
Yeah, I can buy folding tables in my town. Like there's all over. Like Walmart's got them.
Joel, I'm originally from New Orleans, man. It's Saints, dude.
Right?
It's
Yeah.
Saints,
Dude, there's people on my street that got red, blue, and white lights on their houses and flash them every Sunday.
Yeah.
This city lives, breathes, and eats Buffalo Bills, man.
Yeah.
They support.
I saw a lot of Bills stuff, but what I was gonna say is I think it's a chain of game stores, Oogie Games.
It used to be a chain.
So
it's still here, but it's not big.
Okay, so while I was in the Buffalo area, I went in 1 or 2 game stores. I also went in you guys have a sad mall there, which I love sad malls, but from what I understand, it's closing down completely to be renovated for something else.
Which one? There's like 3 of them.
I don't know the name of it.
Yeah, it's New York, Billy. They're all.
Were you? Was it? Well, Bill, because you messaged me. Were you in Tonawanda still, like in the area?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so that would be the Boulevard Mall, probably where you were.
I'm not.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, go on with the story. Go on.
But yeah,
All
one
right.
of them had a really large kind of like flea market in it. And
you're talking about the Niagara Emporium.
Yeah, that's it. The Niagara Emporium. So between all the places I went and actually looked at games there, I was like, holy shit, why are my prices so low? Because you was talking about earlier how your wife told you have to raise your prices. Well,
right.
I've been hearing from a lot of my friends and stuff like that, Bill, you got to raise your prices because you're just going to sell yourself out of business, because I like to have low prices to sell games because, it's just
Yeah, it's a
part of who
selling
I
point.
am. Right. And, but I'm going in these game stores and I sell GameCubes for like $90 with an OEM controller. And everywhere I went up there, man, and I don't go in game stores often, so I had no idea what was out there. And I understand you charge a little more for a
Yeah,
brick and mortar store or whatever, but no matter where I went, it was $120 to $150 with a third party controller for a GameCube. And
yep,
I'm like, why am I charging $80, $90 with an OEM controller? I should be at $100 minimum,
yep.
but I think
So
like I, it's crazy to me because that was my first experience going in a game store in a while, and I
right,
went to a couple of them and it was the same experience.
It was a good day for me because Billy messaged me and he's like, "Hey, Mike, you got malls in your area still?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Do they got stuff in them?" I'm like, "Yeah, they got stuff." He's like, "All the malls here are sad malls." I'm like, "Nah, dude, I live in rural Wisconsin. Our mall is bumping. Like
Dude,
they have small business Saturday. People sell video games in little kiosks in the center on Saturdays and Tupperware and all sorts of stupid stuff. It's Wisconsin, dude. We don't got anything to do."
now
we
don't get it twisted. I absolutely love sad malls. And for people that don't know what a sad mall is, that's when the big anchor stores start leaving, like
yeah,
Macy's and stuff like that. And so the smaller stores, some of those leave, but there's still a mall there and they still owe money on that mall. So they start leasing all these store spaces that aren't being used to like sketchy people.
Yeah,
And
like telecom companies and
yeah,
people
yeah.
yeah,
doing
stuff
business
that you
online. Yep.
couldn't usually get in a high end
Five
mall.
Below.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right.
Hey,
And
we like Five Below around here.
I do too. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
it's
Yeah,
great
but not in the
stuff.
mall.
But yeah, it's like 15 and 16 Spirit Halloween stores, but like every day of the year.
right, right.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Sad malls are fantastic.
Yeah.
What's sad, Bill? What's sad is that the Niagara Emporium that you went to, and the guy that's in there, he's called I Got Game. I've been there a couple times. His prices are a little outrageous. Like he's got a Conker's CIB in box, and I think he wants $500-$600 for it.
Of
I
course.
saw it. I
Yeah,
really did see it.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was $500 because I was like,
I was just there a month ago, so that's how I knew he had Conker's. So that's
yeah.
funny. Yeah.
I walked in and I saw like, oh, Boogie for PS2. Now I have 3 sealed copies of that sitting in the next room.
Okay.
He had a Boogies with no manual and wanted $12 for it, and I'm like, it, it lose like this game CIB is worth $5.
Right.
It's a $5 game.
And he's selling it for 12.
Yeah, like I'm selling the sealed copies for $5. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like it's
Yeah. It's a shitty game.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so that guy's always been really high in his prices. He's got some flack from the retro community around here about that, but we really only have like 3 to 4 retro game stores around here. The Oogie games you brought up
Uh-huh.
back in like 2009, 2008, that blew up. That had like 7 or 8 locations around Western New York.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, they were like the new game store. They were the competition for the GameStops around here.
Uh-huh.
And there was no other retro game stores around here either. So they were like the first ones selling the older games inside an actual brick and mortar store too. And they were getting in brand new Wii's. Remember when the Wii, you couldn't keep a Wii on the shelf at
Right.
one point? They
Right.
were open. That's when they were hot. They were getting the Wii's in and they couldn't keep those things on the fucking shelves at all. And then but they got a lot of flack because when people would go in there to rebuy the games, they were just giving them pennies on the dollar, worse
Yeah.
than what GameStop would offer.
What?
And they ended up closing because nobody wanted to, because they couldn't keep stock. So I think there's only 2 locations and they're owned by individual guys. They're not the same owner. They're 2 separate owners. There's
Interesting.
the one over here in Tonawanda, where you probably went to.
It
And I
was
think
right
there's
it was right across from Savers.
Yeah, that's in Tonawanda. That would
Yeah.
be on Sheridan Road over here in Tonawanda. And then the other one I think is up in Niagara Falls, way deep in Niagara Falls. I think it's up there. My buddy that I mentioned that owns a retro game store, he owns a retro game store in Lockport, but it's also an arcade. He's got the other side of it's an arcade, and the other side of it is a retro game store. He started off as a retro game store. He started off like you, Bill, selling out of his house,
Mm-hmm.
and he made enough money to create his own brick and mortar store up in Lockport, and he's been selling games ever since. And he's a great dude.
I know
But
your guy.
he won't. The cool thing is that he's not really giving you. He doesn't. When you go in there to trade in a game, he's not going to give you pennies on a dollar. He's going to give you half of what the game's worth because he has to resell it at the price of what the game's worth. He goes off of price charting and what is it, Game Eye? He goes
Yeah.
off of those prices, and he also compares to eBay because prices do fluctuate. So he'll compare to eBay last sold prices, and he'll do an average and maybe meet you in the middle of it when you're buying a game. He has no prices on any of his stuff in the store because he looks it up and he gives you the real time value of what that game is worth, and that's what you're going to buy it off him from. And he's been open for a few years, and he's just killing it up there.
Yeah. I have first of all, I know exactly who you're talking about. And second of all, I do a similar thing when I buy games.
Right,
I have a lot of people that sell to me, and it's like people that don't want to take the time to sell individually, so they'll hit yard sales and stuff like that.
yeah,
They're just looking for quick flips.
right,
And so what I do is I figure out the eBay versus price charting price, what's the accurate price for this game, and I offer 50% of what I'm going to sell it for,
right.
which no one, like GameStop's not offering that.
Nope.
GameStop's going to offer you $2 for a game that they're going to sell for 40.
Yep.
My rule of thumb is you brought me the game. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to do the legwork. I'm set up to sell this game, this bundle of games over a long period of time. You want the quick cash, we'll make a deal. You get half the money, I get half the money because we're both doing half the work.
Right. That's what I when I had an idea of doing the game store, that's what my idea was too, that I would buy the game for half the price and then I would sell it for the full price of what it actually is, so people don't complain that you're overcharging or overselling or whatnot.
Right. So like even when I go to yard sales, now if they have something marked with a price,
right.
Say they have a GameCube and it's got a $20 sticker on it, I'm going to pay that $20.
Absolutely.
But because they made the price, but if I say, how much is the GameCube? And they say, make an offer. I know I'm going to sell this for $80. So I'm going to offer them 40. And I even do that at yard sales. If I'm making the offer, I'm always going to make it at 50% of what I'm going to sell it for.
Yeah. Because you know what the value of that thing
Absolutely.
is, and sometimes when a person's like make the offer, you know what the value is. They might not know what it is, but they might have a price in the head. And by you being honest to them of what what it is without telling them, you might be right around what their price is.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm never going to go to one of those game stores and spend $120 or $50 for a third-party GameCube for a GameCube with a third-party controller.
No
That's
shit.
fucking crazy.
That is crazy.
My buddy that I was talking about up in Lockport, who he does sell GameCubes, he sells them at about $120, $130, but he's got the OEM controllers.
Right.
He's not selling you a third-party controller. He'll give you the option to do it if you want, but he won't. If he has a regular controller, he's like, here, pick a controller out of the bin. He's got boxes of controllers in the back.
Right.
So, but yeah, the retro game scene in Buffalo, it could be better. Even our retro game con that we had, it was kind of weak. I didn't go to it because I knew it was going to be weak. And it's just there's so many game players in Buffalo and so many people that do game collecting, even pinball. There's like a pinball underground league in Buffalo.
There is here too.
Yeah, and it's almost like it's like an unspoken thing. So it's just I wish the gaming scene was just more what do you call it? It was more
cohesive.
That's it. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for there around here.
I have considered multiple times a brick and mortar store here because there is one store besides a couple random game stops around. There's one store here and it's not particularly strong because it's also a computer shop. I know the owner quite well. But I have respect for people that do brick and mortar to an extent, because I don't know if I could do it, man.
Right.
It's a whole different animal. My whole business exists online, and yeah, I might have a large basement that's all my business, but I can do it here on the hours that I choose, and I never have to deal with customers face to face.
Right. Right.
You know, I have to do all the other stuff. I have to, like pay my taxes and all that nonsense, but I don't have to stop shipping things out because somebody walked in.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Customers are tough too. Customers are tough.
They can be.
Yeah, it can be. You get a lot. You get a lot. You get those. You get those certain ones. Everybody gets those certain ones, though. But
Everybody
in
does.
general, if any of my customers are listening to this, I love all you guys.
Except that one guy, and he knows who he is.
Yeah,
Dude, I got sued once by a customer.
What?
I did. It's I'll just this customer bought 3 arcades for me, 2-player Lycon, and a pinball. And my pinballs are only supposed to come with 448 pinball games inside it. But the person who it was my babysitter's future mother-in-law. So, okay, you're kind of an acquaintance, you're a friend of a friend. So my pinball machine, my personal one, has over 1,000 pinball games inside it. I got the FX2, I got the FX3s inside it. So I'm like, why don't I be a nice guy and give her copy my actual drive instead of the one that I'm selling? And then they have all these games, right?
Right.
So the FX3 version that I have, when you go to load a game, it asks you to continue or quit. And the only way to get past it is to use the keyboard real quick to click enter on it. And then the game loads right up and plays. She sued me because 90 of those FX3 tables require her to pick up the keyboard.
What?
I'm not kidding. She took me to small claims court for $3,000. She lost, of course, thank God. But I offered to remove them. I offered to remove the games, and I offered to remove everything on there that wasn't actually included in the price. And she's like, "No, I just don't want to use the keyboard." I'm like, "I can't stop you from using this keyboard. That's just the way those specific games are. No other games on the machine was like that." So yeah, I got taken to small claims court just because of that. That was that one customer, and the entire time I've been open, that was probably the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
And she's listening. Don't worry.
Don't worry.
Yeah, she's our 3rd listener for this show for this week. So, as we get close to the end here, I want to give you one more chance, Mr. Retro Lizard. If you want to kick all of your socials one more time here, make sure the people know where they can find you.
Absolutely. So I appreciate that too, man.
Yeah.
If you guys got Facebook, I have a group, Retro Lizards Custom Arcades. It's for customers and for potential customers. Please answer the questions before you join. Obviously, when you go in, Retro Lizards Custom Arcades is the group. I have a YouTube channel, which is just Retro Lizard. You can see all my YouTube videos. I also do my personal gaming videos on there too for like my collection. So it's a little bit of a mix, but it's mainly arcades and it's mainly for customers too. And then, of course, my website, RetroLizardsCustomArcades.com. Go there, check it out, see what you like, browse around, and always feel free to email me too. My email and my phone number is on my website. Anybody can contact me. And if anybody here is local, I'm in Buffalo, New York. You can come by and check out my garage and see what I got going on in there and see what's up. So, but guys, I appreciate you guys for having me on. I'd love to come back. I feel like we haven't even finished the conversation yet.
Yeah, we do have. So this is our problem with guests, is that we go way too long, but because we're not a podcast, we're a radio show.
Right.
We don't get ever talk. So yes, everybody needs to come back for a 2nd and 3rd episode, but we got to find time to do that.
It's part of our trickery.
Yeah, get you back a 2nd and 3rd time.
Absolutely, I'd love to come back
a second time.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do 4 weeks in a row, man.
Just talk about light gun technology.
Yes, we like to keep it light and breezy, like you just hanging out with some friends.
Yeah,
right.
And another thing we like to do, Billy, is at the end of the day, Billy and I like to talk about what we learned tonight. Billy, what did you learn today?
Am I rambling?
Mike, I learned that you paid $99 for Turok, like an absolute lunatic.
In 97.
That was all my money too. I saved my money. I bought one game a year and I got Turok that year.
Oh man. At
It was
least it
all right,
wasn't
but I had
Avery.
That was a
summer
rough year.
yeah, it wasn't a great year. So what I learned is that Billy's weird Sega cousin told you that Tom Brady could stop 9/11. And then all you New York people are the exact same. So-
Wait a minute, where are you from? Are you from Boston?
no, I'm not. I'm
Oh, you're
from
from
middle
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Yeah.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, which is funny. Everybody from Cheektowaga sounds like they're from Wisconsin. Cheektowaga, New York, that is.
Yeah, it's just because it's the
Well,
lakes. You just travel from one lake to the
I
other.
was about
That's
to say,
it, right?
Bill, let's be 100% honest. Buffalo is not like New York. You're in the Midwest, dude. You're there. I
Dude,
tell Beans this all the time.
there's people here that have Southern accents, and I'm like, how do you have a Southern accent? Where you're from? They're like the South towns. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. There's the city, there's upstate, and then there's everybody else, right?
Everything north of the city to build though is upstate.
Yeah.
There's a city, there's upstate, and then over by Buffalo, you guys are the Midwest. You might as well be Iowa or Illinois or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why I'm so accepting. Billy, you do your social one more time, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah. Check out Billtendo.com. Use Quest64 for 10% off if you want games, accessories, or consoles. We got them. So that's about it. You can check out the YouTube if you want. I put stuff on there occasionally. Not. I'm really poor at it.
Yeah, nobody wants to check that out, Billy.
Fuck that. Go to his Facebook. He's got the
Yeah.
best. He's got the best Facebook. His
We-
Facebook group is the shit.
We do occasionally
I
talk
agree.
about his face.
Mike's admin in another Facebook group, a not as good one, but they have more
Yep.
members. They've
Lots
just
more
been around longer.
I'm the brains behind Billy's Facebook page.
Yeah, right. All right, so
All right, that's it. One more time, thank you, Joel, for Retro Lizards for being here. Thank you, Billy, for coming back to the show so patiently after the time off away from me. I'm glad to have everybody back. And we will be glad to have Joel back at a later episode for a Billtendo Show All Stars episode when we bring all the best guests back as voted on by the fan.
Oh,
Absolutely, guys.
Let's do that. That sounds like a good idea. All right, everybody. Thank you, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks, guys.